I don't see the window of opportunity of modifying where culture goes as being too long. Like, I honestly think we have a few years, like 4, 5, maybe 10 years, but we don't have a whole lifetime of, oh, well, if Bitcoin doesn't work now, whatever, maybe we'll hyper Bitcoinize, whatever that means in 15 or 20 years. I think these technologies, this culture, because at the end of the day, this is culture, if they are going to find a footing, it has to happen relatively soon, not in 20 years, and we just need to continue onboarding a few users here and there. No, we need to basically unlock the productive capacity. That's why I don't shield Bitcoin and Nostr to anybody that listens. I think we need to focus on the people that have the most impact, the people that matter the most, which is the productive people.
Greetings and salutations, my fellow plebs. My name is Walker, and this is the Bitcoin Podcast. The Bitcoin time chain is 837685, and the value of one Bitcoin is shockingly still one Bitcoin. Today's episode is Bitcoin Talk, where I talk with my guest about Bitcoin and whatever else comes up. Today, that guest is PabloF7Z, a badass open source developer who is now building a shitload of different things on Noster. We talk about Bitcoin a bit, but focus mainly on Noster, free speech, confrontational truth, and the power of optionality. If you are already using Noster, you're going to love this episode because Pablo breaks down a ton of incredible things being built on the protocol, many of which he's building himself. And if you haven't tried Noster yet, or you tried it like a year ago and didn't like it because it felt clunky, I hope this episode is the push you need to give it a shot, or try it again. You have a chance to be an early adopter of an open protocol for communication, and meet some pretty incredible people along the way. You can find some links in the show notes to get started on Noster. Before we dive in, I'm pleased to announce a new partner for the Bitcoin Podcast, Cloaked Wireless, a privacy and security-focused 5G wireless service built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, providing the nation's best protection against SIM swap attacks, which are quite obviously on the rise. Use promo code WALKER for 25% off the first month of your eSIM or physical SIM plan, pay in fiat or Bitcoin, and keep yourself safe from SIM swap attacks. And shout out to my longtime sponsor, Bitbox. Go to bitbox.swiss/Walker and use the promo code Walker for 5% off the fully open source Bitbox O2 Bitcoin only hardware wallet. If you'd rather watch this show than listen, head to the show notes for links to YouTube and Rumble, but if you're like me and you just prefer to listen, I highly recommend you check out Fountain.fm. Not only can you send Bitcoin to your favorite podcasters to give value for value, but you can earn Bitcoin just for listening to this show. And if you're already listening to the Bitcoin Podcast on Fountain, consider giving the show a boost or creating a clip of something you found interesting. It really helps for other people to discover the show. Finally, if you are a Bitcoin-only company interested in sponsoring another fucking Bitcoin podcast, hit me up on social media or through the website bitcoinpodcast.net. Without further ado, let's get into this Bitcoin talk with PabloF7Z. All right, now we're golden. You know, I realized too that I haven't live streamed any of these shows, and I realized I feel like I'm kind of LARPing in a sense because I really should be like live streaming these for Noster, and so I need to get my shit figured out. But this is still my let's say side job hobby in addition to my fiat job. So I'm like, but I need to get on top of it. But I don't know. Thank you for
live
joining,
stream.
Pablo.
The live stream is a different format. It changes what it is. So I don't know. I think there's a place for live streams. There's a place for just one-on-one, because I think the value of the live stream is the chat basically. Make it more collaborative. But I think there's a place for both.
I just saw you had you were with Odell and Fiat Jaff on Citadel. Was that yesterday?
That was 2 days ago,
I think, or 2 days ago. Okay, yeah, because I just saw that, and I was on Odell's or your page, and it looked like he had uploaded that full file to Noster, like the link where the file location was actually on Primal. Is that the case, or like because it was like a 2-hour dispatch?
It could be.
Maybe
It could
Primal
be.
just cached it differently. I don't know.
I mean, the file could be on Primal for people that have like the I forgot what Million calls it, like verified account. Or, no. I think it's Primal Plus or something like that. You get, I think it's like 10 gigabytes of storage or something like that. So it could perfectly be stored on the Primal content, but it's not a Noster. I mean, the file itself is regardless of whether it's on a Primal server, it's not hosted on a Noster relay.
Yeah, well, it's like I think about that scene from Zoolander where it's like the files are in the computer, and it's like no, like the files are not in the relay, It's but so I wanted a chance to talk with you today because you and I think the first time we met was Unconfiscatable. Was that 2022 maybe? Does that sound right?
It could be. Yeah, it sounds all right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And at that point, Nostra was not even on my radar. I think it wasn't for most people. It may have been on your radar already. I think it was about the time. If it was May 2022, that's exactly the month that I tried Nostra for the first time. So probably. I think it was I want to say February 2022. It was earlier because I remember I was happy to get out of the Midwest and over to Vegas for some sunshine at that time. But
I don't know. The moment I got to Unconfiscatable, I was in shock because it was my first time in Vegas. I mean, my first, only, and last time in Vegas. And I was in shock at how disgusting that place was.
I've got to say, I have a sweet spot for Vegas because, and it's not like I'm a huge gambler or anything, but what I like about Vegas is it does not try to be anything it's not. Like it's fully self-aware in as much as a city, a location can be. Like, we know why you people are coming here. We know what you're here to do. It's to be degenerates. But Carla and I, we lived out there to try it out, if you'll believe it, for a couple of months last year. And the nice thing about Vegas is you can, we live like 20 minutes from the Strip, and you can go to the Strip and literally do anything you want 24/7, 365. But you can also drive like 20 minutes and be in these beautiful national or state parks. You can feel like you're on this alien planet completely away from any other human beings. So there is some balance there between nature and complete urban degeneracy. I have a soft spot for Vegas.
I before ever being to Vegas, many years ago, I considered moving to Vegas because I was living in Boston, and I wanted to go to a place with more climbing, and Boston has basically no climbing whatsoever, and Vegas has really sick trad rock climbing, very very close to the city. So it was one of the places that I was considering because of what you mentioned. What shocked me about Vegas was like the slot machines with the people just reduced, completely stripped out of their humanity and reduced to pushing a button until some lights light up. And I could not believe my eyes when I saw that people will voluntarily walk into that kind of lifestyle. It's so weird.
The slot machines are one of the most depressing things to watch. And you see these old grandmas and grandpas spending their social security checks at these slot machines and just mindlessly, like you said, just pushing that button. And if I may, it's kind of a fair analogy for the way that people interact with most social media these days, where it's just this mindless, repetitive scrolling, liking, just without ever really engaging their brains very deeply, and just kind of being, you're just being fed these bright lights and, shiny things. And, and in the case of Vegas, they're taking your money, but in the case of social media, centralized platforms, I guess they're taking your data, which is a perfect transition to Noster. We tied it all together. Vegas to Noster. But so for those who don't know you, I'd like to start out with just a very basic question, which is, who are you and how did you get here today to be building 27 different micro apps on Noster and a now full-time Noster dev?
Well, I mean, I'm a developer. I've been writing code, like open source code, since forever. I started writing like my first open source project. I launched when I was 11, and I started working on it. I started working on it because I had read a book about C programming, and I was using Linux at the time, and there were no good email clients for Linux, and I figured, okay, I just learned how to code, so obviously I'm not going to be able to write a graphical user interface email client for Linux, but I wonder why I'm not going to be able to do it. So my goal was to find what was the roadblock, like what was going to stop me, and just nothing stopped me. I implemented PubloF7Z, so I was able to fetch emails. I implemented displays, and then I implemented SMTP, so I could send emails, and it I don't know, it felt like such a cool experience. I ended up doing that, working on that email client for 5 years, for 5 or 6 years. I stopped when I was 17. I stopped because I ran out of, I didn't run out of funds. I completely ran out of money, and when I was 17, Argentina went to total shit. So I had to move by myself to Spain, and I studied I needed real money, so I could not pursue working on these projects as a hobby. I was getting some funding, like people were donating some money. But it's funny, I have the website for that email client is still alive. And I was asking for money via bank wires. And I had to dox all my information so people could send me like my address, my full name, like all that information. and I was also asking for money on PayPal. So on my website, you can send me money via PayPal, and I had a link to the PayPal account. My account got banned from PayPal. Then I was asking for people for money to send me like cash on envelopes. Then I found out that was illegal. It's really funny because I was kind of feeling the problem that Bitcoin solves. But yeah, it's really funny that thing is still there, and it's still like such good proof of the problem that, like, for all the people that say, "Oh, Bitcoin is such a stupid scam. What's the point?" Well, like this was a very, very organic problem that I was having. This was way before Bitcoin existed, but Bitcoin would have fixed this issue.
It is so funny because, and first of all, it's just incredible that you were building open source solutions at the ripe young age of 11. That's just insane. I was, I don't know, like setting things on fire in my backyard at age 11. So clearly you were operating on a different frequency than I was. But I think that is such a great point about Bitcoin. And I think it's one of those things where so many people in the so-called developed world, or the Western world especially, have that attitude of, well, why would you need it? Who would possibly need this? And it's like, if you step just like a toe outside of your Western bubble, where the financial system, relatively speaking, is pretty stable, and you can, for the most part, it's not always easy. It's gotten somewhat easier, but you can send fiat around, and you don't necessarily need to worry about your currency getting devalued overnight by 50% or more. They can't possibly see that there is a whole world of people out there who still have the same problems that you were dealing with back then, with just trying to receive money from either local or international sources. And it is a great use. Bitcoin would have been very useful to you back then.
Oh my God!
If I can ask, when did you discover Bitcoin? At what point in your life, and when did you start because you've developed on Bitcoin as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw Bitcoin a bunch of times here and there. I was always super busy. I've always been like very, very busy. And I never had any time to look at Bitcoin until 2017. It always sounded like such a stupid scam. Like all the promises that it makes sound so unlikely that it is as if I were to tell you, oh, I found a way for humans to fly without any assistance. It's like, I don't have to look into it. That sounds retarded. I will not spend 5 minutes looking into your technique of how to move your arms. I know that that's physically impossible. Bitcoin always sounded like that to me until 2017. And yeah, in 2017, a friend of mine showed me that he was trading Litecoin and all the shit coins. I was like, Bitcoin's still around. That's insane. I mean, I saw Bitcoin in 2011 on Slashdot and like all these places and Hacker News and these places. And I didn't even look at it. And yeah, in 2017, I looked at not Bitcoin per se, but I was a little bit closer because I started not trading shitcoins, because that from the get-go, trading shitcoins or trading Bitcoin felt like, okay, it's a zero-sum game. I know I'm not going to be as good as others. I don't care about trading as much as others. So it's a game that I know that if I play, I will lose. So I never even got started. There is a really good book by Seth Godin called The Deep. And the idea of the book is that it's really important to play at whatever you're doing, to do your best. But it's also really important to recognize when you should quit. And if you're going to lose at something, the sooner you realize that that's not the game for you, the better. So yeah, kind of applying that. But what I knew where I did have an edge was on software development and stuff like that, and understanding speed in systems and high frequency trading and shit. Not high frequency trading, but high frequency trades. I had worked like 15 years ago at Merrill Lynch doing the messaging system for the traders to execute trades. So I understand like how that system, like how speed works and like all these different concepts, how they work, the cost of renting rack space. So having servers on the floor at Nasdaq, how expensive that is, the buildings that are right across the street from the stock exchange, how expensive those buildings are because you get faster access to the data. So I knew that's where I had an edge, and that's the edge that got me into crypto scamming, I guess. And yeah, I wrote basically like a platform for myself. I didn't like most people that actually make money. You don't sell these platforms to other people. You exploit it yourself. So I wrote a platform that was doing arbitrage across a bunch of exchanges, and I did that for like year and a half. That was like my only source of income. I was not working for anyone. I was just putting on my own capital, but I was getting massive return on investment. And but yeah.
Wow.
Once that part died, I was like, okay, now what is Bitcoin?
Now you can start really digging deep into it.
Now I can understand what the fuck these BTC, ETC, ETH, and all these stupid tickers mean. And yeah, that. But I had read about I had read Mises. Like I read Human Action in 2006. I've been into Austrian economics before the financial crisis, the 2008 financial crisis. I was very much into Austrian economics because, I mean, I'm from Argentina. Like, this kind of stuff interests me because I understand the pain.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's one of those things at the, let's say, the Austrian economics level where so many people in the Western world may not understand the real ramifications of what those theories mean and what, I should say, what the actual practice that we do in basically all of the world is with regard to essentially in hyperinflationary fiat monetary technology, which is just a very poor base layer to build humanity off of. I think, as we've seen, it has a lot of long-term effects that are starting to bear very rotten fruit, and that's becoming clearer to people. But I appreciate the background because I think well, first of all, it's fascinating. I could probably ask a lot more questions about this arbitrage development you did because that sounds quite interesting. But you've now
technically
shifted.
It was a lot of fun.
I can imagine. Was it more fun than building on Noster right now?
It's very different. As I was working on that,
Okay.
I knew that was like very short-term thinking because I People that do this kind of thing, they rationalize thinking, oh, I'm bringing certainty to the market, I'm bringing more efficient prices, and that's all bullshit. It's full bullshit. So I knew that was bullshit. I didn't lie to myself thinking that. I was thinking, okay, I am just making a lot of money doing this thing. I know I'm giving nothing to society. But it's like, okay, this is going to be good for me in, exclusively in terms of certainty of having savings. Like, to me, growing up, when I moved to Spain when I was 17, I was literally like, I mean, not as poor as you can be, but like to the point of not having enough food to eat, and eating food in like rotten food, because I literally had no food. I would buy pasta at the at the beginning of the month and just eat pasta all the time, and sometimes it would like go bad. Like if I had tomato sauce or something like that, it would go bad. And to me, having some monetary stability, having savings was like super important. So I back to your question. Now, I mean, building a Nostra is a whole lot more fun because it's obviously not as profitable whatsoever. But yeah, it's fulfilling. I mean, I think that the stuff that we're working on Nostr has huge ramifications. I think we can ditch a really bad bullet, and hey, if I can be of help, changing where the world is going, man, I'm gonna do it.
Well, I love that. Folks like you give me so much hope for the future and optimism for the future, because I see the passion that you have and also the ability that you have. And like, it doesn't matter how much, if I dropped everything and started studying and learning all these programs, like I'm never going to reach that level that you have been able to achieve over, decades of hard work at this. And so for those of us who are in that camp, it's like, okay, we find different ways that we can perhaps contribute to this to help spread the word. But I am so grateful for the people who actually do the building, because without you guys, we wouldn't have anything to spread the word about. And spreading the word about Nostr is really fun, because I think it's in many ways it's easier to offer people the purple pill than the orange pill of Bitcoin, I think, in many ways. Because social media, like money, is something very few people understand. And even the people who understand money admit how little they understand. But social media is something that everybody, the vast majority of people in this world these days use in one capacity or another. It's something that's very tangible and familiar to them. And so to say, and obviously Nostra has the potential for so much more than just social media, but that's what we're seeing as the initial manifestation of this open protocol, is kind of building what people know, what they're familiar with, what's going to bring them on board as users of this protocol, which is social media. And it's something that's fun, it's interactive, it's pro-social. And I think that that's kind of a beautiful thing. Can you, to go to the very basics of Noster, can you say just kind of in your own words, notes, Nostr is notes and other stuff transmitted by relays, but how do you describe it to people when you're talking to somebody about Nostr for the first time? What do you say to them to say, this is what Nostr is, and here's why you should be excited about it. Here's why it's special.
I mean, it depends largely on whom I speaking to or with. So yeah, I tend not to do a lot of advocacy in that sense. I've done it with Bitcoin. When I first started to understand Bitcoin, I did it with Bitcoin, and I was like the typical Bitcoiner who can't stop talking about Bitcoin, who starts getting shunned by by his friends because he won't talk about anything else. Or now that we're talking about popcorn, have you heard of Bitcoin? Yeah. So yeah, I don't do a lot of advocacy in that sense. There is a very I love Stoicism, and there is this probably very incorrect quote, but the message stands from Seneca that says that the philosopher doesn't talk about philosophy. The philosopher lives a life of philosophy, and the people who are ready to listen pay attention and might ask questions, something along those lines. And I don't know. To me, I have a lot of ideas about Noster. I have a lot of ideas about how everything fits together. Every time I've tried to articulate them, I realize that I cannot paint the whole picture that I have in my head of how everything comes together. So my speech is my code, basically, which I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to realize. I mean, I'm not starting to realize. I've realized that it's not enough. It's maybe 40%. It's making the products, making the projects, open sourcing them, and all that. But also painting a picture of how, so for example, Wikipedia. It's like maybe you've seen it. It's like a Wikipedia style that I built on Noster. And I've realized when I launched that, I realized that I thought the project itself spoke by itself. But then I realized, describing it to people, that the full picture, and particularly the most important part of the picture, was not revealed just by using it. It would take some investment in time for people using the project to realize the implications. But the implication, so for example, for Wikipedia, it's a good example because it's very self-contained. So in Wikipedia, there is no canonical entry for the truth. Not because of any philosophical reason, although that too. Not for any philosophical reason, but because you cannot have a canonical version of the truth in a decentralized protocol. There is no entry for whatever philosophy or whatever Second World War that everybody subscribes to, right? Whereas in Wikipedia, when you go to Wikipedia, you go to wikipedia.com/en/whatever Noster or internet, and what's there is what the people have agreed that is the truth of what the internet is, or whatever entry you're looking at. But that is, by definition, people need to agree that that's so. What you must remove is all the edges of that truth, right? You need to remove all the stuff that people cannot agree on. So if you go to ivermectin, for example, you're going to see a bunch of stuff, and maybe you'll see a links to conspiracy theories about ivermectin, just as an example. Whereas if you do some test with ivermectin during COVID, and you arrive to certain conclusions, you can publish that. And people can subscribe to what you're saying, or they can refute what you're saying, but they cannot change what you are saying, right? So even though it's just, it's Wikipedia on Nostr, whatever, great. The implications are much, much wider than that. It's not truth by democracy anymore. It's confrontational truths. And I think you can arrive to certain truths that you would not be able to arrive if you were to go via a consensus by majority, or consensus on any kind of way. So I completely forgot what the question was.
No. I love that tangent, because I think that idea of what did you say? A confrontational truth, I think was the phrase you used. I think that's really an important idea, because especially like the internet is such an incredible tool. It is so amazing that we have these things in our pockets that have basically the whole history, or someone's version of the history of the world, and all of the information we could possibly use, with so many apps on them that can do specific things that provide us with really these tools that people a couple generations ago could not even have dreamed of. Maybe a couple of really future forward dreamers were getting close, but for the most part, we're not so great at predicting the future, except some brilliant science fiction authors who do a decent job sometimes. But this idea of confrontational truth being different from what we have now on honestly most of the internet, and certainly on places like Wikipedia, where you have to have that consensus truth, that version that it is agreed upon, again, by just a group of people. We're not saying that these people somehow have a better handle on the truth than anyone else. They're just the ones who have become, Wikipedia moderators and now have a position of power that they can exert, where they say, this, we're not going to add this. We're going to pull that, delete that footnote right there because we don't want to be spreading conspiracy theories, about ivermectin in this example. And I think that idea of confrontational truth gets back to such a deeper kind of philosophical need, which is the need for people to reach their own conclusions, to do your own research, to take in multiple sources, and often confrontational, conflicting sources, and be able to arrive at a conclusion that is entirely your own, that is unique to you, because you haven't just been spoon-fed, here's the bullet point summary from Wikipedia, and now this is what I believe too, because Wikipedia said so, or because ChatGPT said so within their walled garden of their 100%. Algorithmic responses. And so it's this beautiful thing of an encouragement for people to digest information from multiple sources that may often be in conflict, and to reach their own conclusions based on that. It's giving people the information. It's showing them what to think about, not what to think, to put it a different way. And I think that's such an important and powerful thing that has very much become lost in this spoon-fed information generation that we live in right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, when I hear Bitcoiners say, do your own research, which I agree with, it feels like a very, there is no better path, but do your own research is a little bit hand-waving away the problem, because you do your own research. Great. On the first point, people are just not used to. Like, the vast majority of people, you tell them that, and the only thing they can think is, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to search Bitcoin, right? And you're going to end up in 3 websites talking about the Bitcoin price and some stupid bullshit. So it's a really hard problem, because it's a muscle that we've lost in the last 30, 40, 50 years. We started losing it. It started degrading. And when you mentioned ChatGPT, I have a lot of concerns about, not like the fucking AIs are going to kill us and all this stupid, or we're not going to have jobs and all those stupid things. My main concern is that people have, with the internet, with Google in particular, or with like what we can call Google as a whole, people have offloaded memory into the internet, so you don't have to recall a bunch of stupid facts, and you can go to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia will tell you everything you need to know. And I would pose that it will give you trivia. Basically, it's not going to give you knowledge. It's definitely not going to. It's probably not even going to give you information. It gives you trivia, and I think we are at the point where people are going to start offloading not just their memory, but now with ChatGPT, their thinking. And what's interesting is that ChatGPT, by design, like the way LLMs work, is they give you the mediocre, like they give you the midwit meme, like the smack in the middle. And especially like the ChatGPT models, if you go with something more like NBK's Unleashed or something like that the model is try to be the skewing be reduced. For the most part, the vast majority of people are going to be using these models to offload their thinking into a mediocrity producing machine. So we've lost the capacity to memorize, to remember things, and memorizing things, it sounds retarded. It sounds like, why do I need to memorize these things at school and stuff like that? But you don't know what you don't know, right? So memorizing is kind of important. The memories are the ingredients of thoughts, right? So if we also offload thinking into these machines, that produce mediocrity. It's just a flattening of human creativity, which, I don't know, I keep thinking that we, people that are able to think, and especially like praxeological style, think from first principles, are in 10, 20 years, we're going to be like a different species from the absolute vast majority of the world that goes down this path. And I think this is one of the things that Noster can have as a byproduct, like playing it out the whole way. I think this could be one of the byproducts of Noster dominating the internet. That's why I'm so excited to work on these things. And sometimes I see all these things and I feel a lot of pressure. And then I have literal breakdowns, and then she hugs me and he's like, dude, chill. It's gonna be okay. But I have such a strong sense of urgency to fix these problems. And I think maybe if I didn't have kids, I would not have this sense of urgency, like burning so much. But I don't know. I feel like I've said this a couple of times, but I feel like culture is in flux for the past. I think since I don't know if it's causality or how do you say causality or
causality.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
But like about the time of when Obama was president. I don't care about politics. I think all politics are shit, and economics needs to be downstream. Politics needs to be downstream from economics and not vice versa. But around like 2015, 2014, it's like culture was in on stasis, and now it's in flux, and it's been in flux for quite a few years. And I think all the deplatforming and all the censoring on the main social networks is just a byproduct of culture being in flux. And we are going to reach a new stasis, a new point of equilibrium in culture, which could take a really long time to go out of equilibrium again. So I see this huge opportunity for freedom technologies to be the point where culture finds its new equilibrium. Like the meme of CBDCs and all this thing on one path, the dark, scary path, or Nostra and Bitcoin and freedom technologies and schooling on the other path. I see it as very real. And I don't see the window of opportunity of modifying where culture goes as being too long. Like I honestly think we have a few years, like 4, 5, maybe 10 years, but we don't have a whole lifetime of, oh, well, if Bitcoin doesn't work now, whatever, maybe we'll try, we'll hyper Bitcoinize, whatever that means in 15 or 20 years. I think these technologies, this culture, because at the end of the day, this is culture, if they are going to find a footing, it has to happen relatively soon, not in 20 years, and we just need to continue onboarding a few users here and there. No, we need to basically unlock the productive capacity. That's why I don't shield Bitcoin and Nostr to anybody that listens. I think we need to focus on the people that have the most impact, the people that matter the most, which is the productive people. Like it's in that sense, I'm very friendly with I'm really good friends with Alex Vetsky, and in that sense, I agree with his point of view that it's not that we need to bring anyone on board, is bring the people that matter the most, and it's not a one-to-one. There are many differences. All right, that was a really long rant. Sorry.
No, that you know what, this is an open forum for long rants, and I loved it. And there's quite a bit to unpack there, but I'm just going to start with the very end because what with my millennial brain memory, I probably can't even go back too much farther. I've already offloaded some of that, but I think I've talked with Svetsky about this too, and this idea that, and I recently talked with NVK also about the idea that Bitcoin is for everyone is kind of misstated. Bitcoin is for anyone who wants to learn, anyone who has the capacity to learn, anyone who is productive and wants to find a way to store the fruits of their labor in a way that will shield them from all of the external forces that are trying to devalue the fruits of their labor. And I think as it relates, kind of the urgency, I feel that more acutely now that I've had a son as well. It's like things, I cared about these things before, but now it's like, oh fuck, it's not just about me. It's not just about Carla. It's about our son who will live on long after we are here, and his children, and what kind of world do we want to leave them? And the path that we're on right now, because I would agree that we are in flux right now, and there's opportunities for those two different paths to take control. Like there's right now it's undecided, I think, which direction humanity ends up going in, but it's ultimately going to be influenced by the people who have the greatest influence. And I think that right now in our culture, we see that some of the most productive and influential people are also, let's say, productive and influential in the sphere of social media. And that is where their messages are disseminated. That's where their influence comes from, is their reach online. And so through that lens, I think Nostra is so very important to being able to change those tides, because right now these walled gardens that most people are operating in, they don't realize that garden can just be filled with cement and shut off, and they will never be allowed back in there again. And I think that it's a good strategy to try and, again, everyone's free to do whatever the fuck they want. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but one of the most productive things that we can do if we're trying to grow, #grow Noster, is to bring over the people who have influence, who then will, because of their influence, will bring their, the followers that they have with them. They will, and you saw that at a huge scale when someone like Jack started using Noster. Like we have very clear evidence of this. Massive influx of users. When Snowden got on, same thing. It's that spark that says, well, this is a person I really respect and admire and value their opinion. They're trying this new thing. I'm going to try it too. And so with that said, I think that what you're building right now with Highlighter is really cool and sort of fills a bit of that need. And I'd like to kind of switch to talk a little bit more about Highlighter, because I remember when you first released it some months ago, and I was trying it, I uploaded some articles to there, and then and I think you had based it on Gigi's purple text, orange highlights. That kind of gave you the spark for the idea, right? Mm-hmm. And now I have to admit, I had not used it in a couple of months. It's with a baby, it's been a busy time, And then I went back on there recently, and I was like, oh shit, this looks so fucking good. This looks amazing. And now you've got this whole subscription thing that's being built out for creators. It seems to me as though Highlighter is coalescing around a one-stop shop for creators, influencers, whatever you want to call it. But, for anyone who wants to have a place they can send people to digest their content and to also support them. And I know right now, you've got the articles, you've got video capabilities on there, notes, but then I saw that you also have, coming soon live stream, coming soon podcast. So can you tell me, first of all, can you give an overview of what Highlighter is for anyone who is not familiar, highlighter.com for anyone listening, and where it is now and where you plan to take it? Speaking of open source software, head to bitbox.swiss/Walker and use the promo code Walker for 5% off the fully open source, Bitcoin only Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. Then go ahead and get your Bitcoin off the exchange and into your own self-custody. The Bitbox02 is truly easy as hell to use, whether you are brand new to Bitcoin or you're a seasoned psychopath looking for a new security solution. It's fully open source, again, so you can go to their GitHub and verify for yourself. Please do not feel the need to just trust me. When you go to bitbox.swiss/Walker and use promo code Walker, not only do you get 5% off, but you also help support this fucking podcast. So thank you.
I mean, you captured it exquisitely well, better than I could have said it. But that is exactly the idea. And the idea that I have in mind is just like you said, is that the people that have more social capital, in the same way that Michael Saylor comes into Bitcoin and he has a disproportionate effect because he has a lot of financial capital, he has a very large effect on the price of Bitcoin, and a lot of things of what Bitcoin means. The same thing happens with creators and people that have social capital, just like you said, Jack and Snowden were, when they arrived, each one of them was the highest user count growth in a single day was when they joined and published about it on Twitter and other mediums. So I have the exact same idea. And so yeah, highlighter.com, the idea is to be a place where creators can come. They can bring people that want to follow them, and they need to have the tools that are required for them to interact with their community. So there is a sense of community when you subscribe to someone. You can participate in the chat. You can participate in the private forums for this person. You can access, if they choose, they can publish content that is exclusive for the paid members of the community. I have some ambivalence whether that makes sense, but I know it's an important part for many people. So I put the option, and creators can choose to use it or not. But yeah, the idea is this has been a need that people have been experiencing for really, for like the past 4, 5, 6 years, when Substack started growing, when Patreon started growing, when Locals.com and Rumble and all these sites that a few people got banned from YouTube, a few people got banned from Medium and Twitter and these places. So they've created a platform, because it's very much a platform still. Substack is a platform, like all these things are a platform. But with the promise, hey, we won't ban you. Wink, wink, probably. But it's such a bad proposition, right? Because you're running away from a platform because they do ban people, and you're going into a different one where it's still a company. It's still operated. It's a legal business that still operates within the framework of the state. So they can very easily, like, push off a button. Rumble, for example, you cannot go to Rumble. You cannot access Rumble on Brazil. The whole country is banned from using Rumble because the one judge in Brazil said, "Hey, this content, one creator in this platform is not legit, so the whole platform is banned." And these things, there is a concept in literature, the Chekhov's gun, where if you introduce a gun in a story, the gun will be used. If there is a button that you can push and block and ban people, the button will be pushed at some point. It's just, if it can be done, it will be done. It's like Fiat debasement. If it can be done, it will be done, and it can be done. So my idea with Highlighter is not to create just a place that is censorship resistant and all these things, because the vast majority of people, they don't really care about censorship resistance. Most people don't care about that. It's just a better product for creators. And it's a better product, not just because of the censorship resistance. I think because of the censorship resistance, there is something really cool that happens, where, like, currently creators, they need to have different, like, they have to have a funnel, so they must participate in different platforms. Like, they need to go to Instagram or to medium.com or to Twitter, because that's where people are. So you go to twitter.com or you go to medium.com and you publish your content there because you get top of the funnel, you get more eyes on your content. But you can't really monetize well via those mediums. You need to take those visitors away from the platform into a new platform, mind you, where you can run your business. Hopefully they won't ban you. Probably they won't. They will take whatever 10-15% cut from your revenue. You still are subject to maybe an algorithm that will say whether, like, regardless of the fact that someone followed you or subscribed to you, maybe they won't get the stuff that you want to show them. So it's interesting because when you go into people like Tom Woods or Ben Settle or people that do their business online, what they pitch is forget about social media because it's a game that is totally rigged. You won't own your audience, so just follow on having a mailing list. And why? The reason is that if you have the email address of someone, you can always send them an email. Maybe Gmail sends you to spam. I'm guessing Alex Jones ends up in spam or promotions very often. But it's like a more direct connection with the audience, right? Whereas you get a Twitter follower, maybe you publish something, maybe they'll see it, maybe you get shadow banned and they don't. So you never know, right? I think Noster is like the email part where you have a direct relationship. It is way more direct than email because, again, email is still a super centralized protocol, extremely centralized protocol. And at the same time, like, why do people don't default to using email? Because you lose the viral possibilities, right? You cannot go viral on email. People don't do forwarding of emails in a viral way, right? This email is amazing. I'm going to send it to all my contacts. Like, the people don't do that anymore. They used to. They don't do it anymore. So in Nostra, you can have both. You can have the direct relationship, you can have the virality part. Like, you can publish something to your audience, and they can share. They can like it. They can repost it, and they can share it with all their followers, right? So I think it's the best of both worlds. I think there's a massive, massive opportunity there. And yeah, I mean, with I don't know if you have any questions before.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's a really excellent point about the comparison with email, but without obviously email is a protocol, but has become incredibly centralized with massive gatekeepers who basically control all of it. Like, you could still run your own emails, but nobody does. Right?
You can't. It's
we
really
all
hard.
Use some.
It's really hard.
It's just not.
I used to run my, like, I've run my email servers for many years, and I think I gave up like maybe 20 or 15 years ago. I just gave up. It's a lot of work for you to have your own email and not end up in spam most of the time.
Right. But I think that's it's a great analogy that you're able to get the direct connection of email where you are actually, I'm sending this to you, like you're going to get it. It doesn't, the algorithm, there's not an algorithm to say, well, we don't really like what was said there, so we're just not going to really show that to anyone, at any large scale. And so you're never going to be seen. Like, you're going to be siloed. You're going to be kneecapped, basically. But you have that direct, but you can still go viral, because that is one of the incredible things that social media did. Like the advent of the retweet, basically, that said, I like this. I want to share this with my network, and all these people in my network may not have any crossover with the person who originally shared its network, but now they do, because now I've retweeted out. Like, that simple action was basically the advent of true virality, was the retweet, the repost. Like, that's what made virality possible. And it's really it's a brilliant thing. And it shows, and without the algorithmic bias, the cream really rises to the top even more, because you're not, again, things may go viral on Twitter, on X these days, not because it's the best content, but because it pushes the right little buttons, and the algorithm liked the way that it was framed, and so it's diminished the signal that the retweet used to provide, I think, by adding in so much algorithmic bias to that, and also various tiers of, okay, well, if you're a Twitter premium member, you're going to get a greater chance at virality than if you're just an unverified person on Twitter. So there's so many different levels there that with Nostr, you're able to cut that out. And again, I've said this before, but I think it's a fairly decent point that on Nostr, value is the algorithm, at least right now. We'll see algorithms come in, right? That people can voluntarily opt into. But right now, value is the algorithm. What people find valuable is what gets shared and boosted out to more people. It's also what directly accrues value through zaps, which is kind of this beautiful thing, and it's such a more high signal activity than you see on any other platform right now. And I think that that's just like mind-blowingly beautiful to see in action.
Yeah, absolutely. And with regards to the algorithm, the way I see it is, of course, I mean, like I wrote a few algorithms for discovering nodes and like content discovery, which is basically what an algorithm does for like social media. And the thing is that when you don't have one predominant algorithm that everybody, like literally billions of people are under the influence, there are no economics to try to optimize for that algorithm, right? So when you, like I've spoken with content creators about this, and you have like these people, they become experts at the TikTok algorithm, and they become experts at the Twitter algorithm, and they produce the same content, but they modify the content, like the same video, and they change small things. And man, I got into detail with like people with millions of followers on TikTok, and the level of detail that they go to on, okay, for the TikTok video, we need to have a bottle on the background, like that level of detail. They become experts to that degree. And it's the same thing that happened with SEO. We have so much bullshit on the internet because there is a very strong financial incentive to become an expert at SEO. The point of SEO is not to make better, more informative websites or to seek truth or in any way. It's just to rank better. So you don't focus on the value of that the human will perceive. You focus on what's the score that the algorithm of Google is going to give you for this content, right? So you end up like, if you have a KPI, if you have a key performance indicator, you're going to game the key KPI. That's what humans do all the time. Constantly. We always do that, right? So the fact that in Noster, we have this bucket of data, and you will have one algorithm for these people and one algorithm for these people, and you end up with hundreds, thousands of algorithms. None of them has enough economic incentive to attempt to be gamed. So the algorithm that I wrote can be gamed probably easily. It could be gamed. But if there is not enough economic momentum behind that algorithm, there is no incentive to try and game that algorithm. So at the end, you must focus on, well, fuck it. let's just produce content that is valuable to the person, and may the chip fall where they may, right?
And I think you see the effects of that on Nostr, and I love reading the notes from people who are, doing, maybe it's a couple posts after their introduction note or something, and they've started to actually go around and interact a bit more on Nostr. And the experience pretty much, I mean, like, basically the experience everyone seems to have is, oh, wow, this is such a different vibe than any other social media platform I've used. And of course, because, it's not a platform, it's a protocol, but yet, it's so much different than any other social media I've used. There's just a different energy here. There's a different vibe here. I think there's a lot more positivity in general, because rage baiting people, which the algorithms like on these other platforms, it doesn't work on Nostr. If people don't want, feel that, people like to share happy things more than they like to share sad or angry things, right? But on centralized platforms, they're incentivized to produce content that gets people angry or frustrated because that's what people go to town on their keyboards on and get pissed off about, and then it goes viral for all the wrong reasons, because it's just like this rage bait porn that is a vicious cycle. But on Nostra, you don't have that. And so you also don't, as you said, because there's no economic incentive to game the algorithm, because there is not one algorithm. I think there will be innumerable algorithms that are developed on Nostra that people can opt into freely. But you have no idea what your audience and what other people are opting into. So what are you going to do? What are you left with? Well, then I should just be myself and try to create things that I think are valuable. I mean, wow, what an incredible concept. Just being authentic and trying to create value. And that's so beautiful, though. And I think Nostra is what? It's like, I was checking on Primal just before this. I think it was around 775,000 npubs that are alleged to be out there, and how many of those are active versus dead ones, who knows. But it's still so very small relative to these platforms, very, very tiny. But there is such a rich let's say a rich spread of content of all different types, because instead of trying to game some algorithm, people are just posting what they like, what excites them, what they're into, what they're passionate about. And it turns out that resonates with other people. And like hashtags are actually somewhat useful again, because hashtags really just became, I mean, they used to be a very useful thing on Twitter, but now it's like, if you go to the Bitcoin hashtag on Twitter, you'll literally just like the top 5 things are just obviously posts that are complete spam that a bunch of bots have re-upped, and they got picked up by the algorithm, and it's garbage. You can't actually find any signal there. On Nostra, you can go to any number of little hashtags and find this cool little niche of people that are actually posting about what that hashtag is about, not just trying to game the algorithm somehow with what hashtag is trending for the day. And that's incredible. And it gives people this sense that, oh wow, like social media is working again. Like it's like seems somehow productive to spend your time on there and to engage on there, because you can actually find things of value versus just finding whatever rage bait the algorithm fed you to get you pissed off and keep you doom scrolling through the app. Like, it's a beautiful thing to see in action. And I look forward to seeing how that starts to scale, because again, we are at a very small scale still relative to these, relative to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But it's heartening to see that. It gives me hope.
Yeah. Oh man, it gives me hope too. So much. I started. I saw a post from someone that is, I think she's new to Noster, but she's super active. I forgot her name. It's Laeserine or something like that. But she's like a super cool account. I love following her. And she published something saying like people with a lot of followers, they forgot what it's like to not have followers. I don't know, something like that. To not have followers or something like that. And I thought, oh, that's a fantastic idea. And I just created a new account. It's Pablo, and I said, okay, from this account, I'm only going to publish about climbing. It's not about going to be my developer account, or it's the account where I'm publishing all the time. It's my account for my climbing persona, and that account's about climbing. So it's a different profile picture. Instead of PabloF7Z, it's just Pablo. And I started just publishing a few notes here and there, and then I just started having like just some organic conversations, and I started posting. I think on my first post I mentioned that I have this goal of climb. I used to climb really hard. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I was climbing 8A, which is like it's really really high. It's like it's pretty good. And from where I am now, like from my conditioning right now, I cannot climb 8A, not even close. Maybe I could climb like 6C or 7A or something like that. And I figure that if I train diligently a lot, I'm gonna maybe in 2 years I'll be able to climb back to 8A. And I just started talking about this and mentioning my plan, and just I'm sharing pictures with my training and shit like that. And it was amazing, man. Like it's really weird because that account has like 100 followers. It's like it doesn't have reach. But I feel seen. Like that's one of the things that I noticed, that on day 2 of using that account, I felt seen. I felt that people were engaging. It's not from my main account that has a lot of followers, and whenever I publish something, it gets a bunch of reposts and all this. No, it's like a very small account, but the experience of having a small account compared to any of the other social networks where you have to have like a game plan to have followers and to... No, people just engage with the stuff that you're saying. It's such a... And what you're saying is... I actually... It's kind of a joke, but I published... from that account, I published... The people in Noster are very kind, but because of Noster, we use the concept of kind. It means something, so it was kind of like tongue-in-cheek. But it's very true. Like, the people were engaging in a very nice way. Most people thought that it was like an imposter account. That I was an imposter of myself, and I started getting DMs on Telegram asking me, "Yo, someone is impersonating you again." But no, it's my real account.
They're just talking about climbing nonstop. I don't know what their game plan is. Yeah.
But friends of mine physical friends of mine were like, "No, dude, those are your shoes. It is real."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a different. But Shishi has this. He has said this many times, which I think is a really it captures it very well. That people don't want to look at a crash car. Like, you see a crash car and you don't feel like, oh man, that was amazing, I'm gonna sap the crash car, this was right? But you still look, because there is something about your humanity that is really hard to not look at something tragic that has happened, at an accident or whatever it might be. And all the algorithms end up optimizing for that, right? They end up optimizing. And I think that's why the face, like, you go to YouTube and all the thumbnails have these people with like really stupid faces. And I think it's exactly like that. And I think it's exactly that. It's not that you like it. It's just like it triggers something very, very primal in you. Something like, what is going on? Why is this person looking like that, right? And it's not that the people that produce the video like doing that face, is that the algorithm ended up feeding them. It ended up directing them in this direction, and now they've changed their behavior to accommodate to what the algorithm likes, which is something that interests me quite a bit, because like you and me, we've escaped fiat, right? We've even if you have a fiat job, we don't think in fiat terms. We don't feel like we, in the matrix terms, we are outside the matrix, right? Like, we can see it. We can see for what it is. Even if you still need to, buy things with fiat, whatever. Like, you can understand that game and you choose not to play it, or you choose to play it in a different way. With Nostra, it's kind of the same. We see the algorithm. We see what's behind this manipulation of the algorithms. We can see all that stuff, and we opt out. Perfect. But the problem is that the vast majority of people that surround us in real life are still plugged into that system, right? So even if we withdraw ourselves from that system, we are still affected by that system, because the people that surround us still behave under the influence of fiat, under the influence of these social media algorithms. So our escape is not complete, really. Our escape is very, very partial. And like, this is something that I've learned from Francis. It's a good friend, Francis Pouliot. And he told me, dude, I am going to optimize my life to be only surrounded by Bitcoiners. And in that sense, it's a way to try to reduce your exposure to these perverse systems into your life, which is all that matters. It's all you have control over. But I don't know, like this leaking of those perverse incentives and perverse systems, it's something that kind of it makes me think, like, where am I still exposed to these systems?
No, it's such a good point, and I like the car crash analogy as well, because I mean that is basically the summarized experience on centralized platforms. It's they're showing you as many car crashes as they can because they know you'll look. And sometimes those car crashes also make you really not just like sad or disgusted, but really angry. And that's even better. A really anger-inducing car crash. That's the
good one.
Creme de la creme. That's what they're going. Yeah, that's the pinnacle of that experience. And so it is a great point. Like you find yourself, if you're using something like Twitter, you can very quickly get into a weird headspace with that, because or find yourself feeling a little bit agitated for kind of no apparent reason once you step out of yourself for a second and say, wait, what am I even doing here? What did I just look at for the last 15 minutes? Like what was this? I don't really remember any of it actually, but somehow I just feel like a little bit anxious or like angry or whatever, and have this desire to like tell a bunch of people to fuck off and like, and then you spend this time on Noster and you're like, wow, look at all these cool things being built. Oh, that's a nice picture of a flower. Oh, so-and-so is, doing something with their kids. That's nice. Like it's this non-toxic experience that is, I think, so much better for us mentally. And that's one of the things I hope, because I agree. Something you said earlier that I think not enough of us fully grok, but is a really good point, is that the majority of people don't actually give a shit about censorship resistance. Like they honestly don't really care about it. That angle is not what's going to bring them over to start using Noster. It's not, because most of them, even if they understand, well, yeah, this is a problem, and yeah, I believe in free speech, and yeah, but I'm not getting censored. And you can tell them that, well, they'll come for you one day too, and they're like, yeah, okay, sure. They don't care. They really don't care. What I think is actually attractive to people is, oh, this is something that feels more real, feels genuinely organic, feels not contrived to make me angry or sad or just to stick in this app for a while. Like on Nostra, it's like you keep scrolling because you keep finding things that are valuable. On Twitter, I don't use Facebook anymore, but wherever else you're doing it, I don't use TikTok either. But if I did, and from what I understand, that is literally designed to just keep you inside. It is literally designed to pull you in and not get out. It's designed to make you take a 2-hour, shit on the toilet because you didn't realize you were still just scrolling TikTok this entire time. And on Nostra, it's like, oh, no, I'm still scrolling because I'm still finding valuable things on here. And that's a beautiful thing.
It's still 2 hours in the toilet, but it's filled with love.
Yeah, but they're productive hours though, and you take a great shit at the end of it. No, but another thing that I think is really interesting is you've even seen a lot of pushback from Bitcoiners. Maybe not as much now, more coming around to it, but a lot of Bitcoiners who are, on Bitcoin Twitter, especially like a year ago, a lot pushed back very forcefully saying, oh, well, Nostr is just a distraction. Nostr is a shit coin. Like, no, Nostr's this, Nostr's that. It won't be around in a year. It's still here, and it's better than ever. The experience is better than ever across many more clients. So, obviously demonstrably wrong on that. But I found that to be so weird, because Bitcoiners are this subsection of people that you think should get what Nostr is all about faster than anyone. And we have seen that as very much the case. But we've also seen people like, for example, like Roya comes to mind, who found Nostr and through Nostr found Bitcoin, and was able to jump over the whole shitcoining thing and just went straight to Bitcoin only. Like, what an amazing pipeline, and like, a great person to have on Nostr as well. And I'm curious what your thought is on just like the kind of reluctance by some Bitcoiners, it seems, to to embrace Noster? Like, is it because they're still just stuck? Like maybe they have a big audience, for example, and they're like, well, I don't want to, like you said earlier, you don't want to start from scratch. Or is it something else? Is it just the scam rate, signals going up that say, well, anything that's new now besides Bitcoin is a scam, and so I'm just not even going to look at it, even though it's using Bitcoin like in a very real way on the Lightning Network, which also apparently doesn't work, but like it works every time I use it. So I'm curious of your thoughts on that.
Before delving into that part, since you mentioned Roya, so yeah. I met Roya when in Nostrica, so in March last year, and it was kind of like the nail in the coffin of me working for a Bitcoin company and saying, fuck it, I need to go all in on Noster. I was roommates with her during Nostrica, so we were staying in the same Airbnb. And listening to her talking about she's from Iran, and she always thought, oh, Bitcoin is like this stupid investment thing, which is what 99.999% of people think Bitcoin is, like this fucking ticker. And seeing her find Noster because it was valuable to her, and then finding Bitcoin very, very close after finding Noster, and talking to her about what it is and why it's different, like all those things. It was, okay, Nostra is going to orange pill more people than all the other efforts we've been doing in the past 12, 13, 14 years combined. Easy. Like, very, very easy. Because like what you were saying at the beginning of the conversation is that the barrier to clear, to try something new, a social network, it's so much lower than parting with money. Like, you worked whatever time and you had these $100, and your first action during Bitcoin is, oh, I need to spend my money to buy this stupid scam money. It's such a much higher barrier to clear, a much higher bar to clear to buy Bitcoin than to, oh fuck, I'm gonna try this thing. Oh man, I got a sub. What the hell is this? So with that out of the way, so thank you, Roya, and I love you. With that out of the way, I think there are many different reasons. I'm a lot disillusioned with Bitcoiners. I think a lot of Bitcoiners, it's just a lot of Bitcoiners, especially early on, they arrive to Bitcoin in some way. But I think currently there's a lot of Bitcoiners that are into Bitcoin, but they could have easily be into a different cult, because Bitcoin does have like a bit of culty vibes, like most things. Anything that has, oh, we're going to have a conference around it, it has kind of culty vibes. And I think a lot of people just stumbled on the Bitcoin cult, but they don't understand really what Bitcoin is. They think, oh, I'm going to run a node, and that's going to be like, I have all these flags of, okay, I have a Lightning channel, I have a node, and I coin join. And great, but if you don't know what the hell any of that means and why you're doing these things, and you don't even know how to use your node, it's very superficial, right? So I think part of the vibe of Bitcoin is being disgusted by all the scams that pretend to be Bitcoin, and anything that is new for the people that are very dogmatic is a scam. It doesn't matter what it is, it's a scam. Everything is a scam. Everything about Bitcoin is a scam. Even nails, or even keys, or even laptops, whatever. Everything is a scam. So Nostra is a scam. I think some people fall in that bucket. Some people fall in that bucket. There's a bunch of people that fall in the other side of the Noster skeptics bucket, which is Noster is very different to Bitcoin. Very, very different. There is no consensus. There is no global. There is no agreement on anything, and that's by design. So I've heard a bunch of people, like Shinobi, for example. He is skeptical about Noster from what I've heard on a Rabbit Hole Recap. mainly because it doesn't scale. And it's just Bitcoin scales in a very different way Nostra scales in a very different way to Bitcoin because they're very different animals. They're trying to be different things. Nostra, like one of the typical arguments from more technical people is that you are not going to be able to have a global search or a global feed of everything that has been said on Nostr in the same way that you can do on Twitter. Mind you, the global Twitter feed, it's not global. It's Twitter global. It's when you search on Twitter, you're not going to see what happened on TikTok. You're not going to see what happened in your neighbor's house. You're not going to see what happened like in top of Mount Everest. Like you're going to see what happened on Twitter. So global is a scam. There is no global. The only global is within a system. And it just so happens that in Noster, there is no Noster, global Noster. There is just a bunch of relays. So I think a lot of people just have this different expectation of what a social network should be. But if you do away with the idea that there can be a global on anything, then I think people will see, or they can see it in a different lens. But yeah, global is a scam on everything in life. It doesn't exist.
No, I like that, and I appreciate the two sides of the context there because, and to any Bitcoiners listening to this who are not yet on Noster, give it a try. And if you tried it, maybe like right after Jack and Snowden got on and said, this is crap and it doesn't work, just try it again. Try Damus, try Primal, try Snort, try Iris, try Amethyst. Try any of these. Perhaps the easiest one for you to get going on if you are feeling like the onboarding experience is difficult. Primal has done a very good job with that onboarding experience for mobile. I've got to give them a lot of credit, and Milian and his team, because it's really nice, it's really clean, and it will probably feel more familiar to you, fellow Bitcoiner. So give Nostra a try again. And on the topic of clients, actually, I'd love to just know, what do you use as your daily driver? Do you use a couple different clients? Like, do you have a preferred client on mobile, and then you're using something totally different on web? Are you using Primal across all? What's your stack look like?
Oh man, I use a lot of clients all the time because that's the cool thing is that each client gives you a slightly different perspective on things, even within like the micro blogging style clients. So on my phone, I use Primal, Nostr, and Damus. They're like my three clients that at any point I'll open. Maybe I'll like literally open Primal, and right after opening Primal, I'll open Nostr. And then maybe an hour later, I'll open Damus. They're very different, right? Even if the look is kind of similar, they are different things. And then on my computer, on my computer, I also use a lot of different clients. I cycle through a Nostrudel. I love Nostrudel. It's amazing. I use Coracle a lot, and I use Primal a lot. I would say those are my three main microblogging clients. I also use Substream, especially for like rabbit hole recap and things like that. But yeah, man, I also use like a bunch of other clients, command line clients and shit like that. Yeah.
I'm curious also, outside of kind of microblogging clients, what are you, maybe it's something, let's say outside of things that you're building, that you've seen other people building. And I know because you're building a lot between Wikipedia and Highlighter. And, you built ZapLife a while ago, which is just a really cool thing. And you've built probably a dozen other things that maybe I haven't even heard of. But outside of what you're building, what are you most excited about? Like I heard about Blossom recently. I think I saw, maybe it was Gigi post about it, but what is really exciting to you in the Nostr ecosystem right now outside of microblogging clients?
It's a hard question because it's all the stuff that I'm working on.
I know.
I don't like working on
well then tell me what you're working on that you're most excited about.
I like so I wrote Shipyard a while ago, and Shipyard is like it's a write only client. So the experience is very different because it is a microblogging client, but you only publish from there. But you don't have a feed basically. So it's like a client but without a feed. But it's very cool because I can just go there and I can write, and then if I don't feel like publishing it, I'll save it as a draft and maybe I'll come back later to it, or like I can schedule my posts from there. So I very often go there. If I'm thinking about something and I want to express it, I'll go there because the tagline of the client is a sanctuary for focused writing or something like that. And the idea is like it's like I can go there and it's like this is a writing space. It's not for just a quick thought. It's to think a little bit deeper, not trying to be long form because it doesn't publish long form. Although I'm thinking about maybe changing it to be kind agnostic, so it could do long form. But yeah, so Shipyard is one that I like a lot. A lot of people use it, but again, because it's not a client that you don't link to it, right? You don't say, oh, go and read this thing that I wrote in Shipyard. So it has quite some usage, but yeah, it's more like a productivity tool. I don't know. A productivity tools sells it very short. I hate productivity tools, but yeah, I like that client. I like Highlighter. It's I think it's going to be really useful once I move it further along. But yeah, the idea is that you can go there and you will see a feed of ideas, like the stuff that you care. That's why it's called Highlighter, because it highlights the stuff that you're interested in, right? So if you subscribe to content creators, you're gonna see a feed of all the stuff that they are publishing. If you pay for something, you'll see on the feed, you'll see like the paid content. You can also see the paid content on any other client as well. But it also shows you a feed of people that you are following that have highlighted something, and it can be on a book, it can be on a website, it can be on Noster itself. So there is like this really cool app that I loved that allows you to import your highlights from Kindle. And then you can have like this collection of all the stuff that you've been reading and have them all together. Yeah, I want to I love that idea, so I want to bring that into Nostr. So the highlighter is that. So there's a nip for highlights. Those are to the Wikipedia, but that's also something that I wrote. But I mean, it's a selection bias, right? Like I write the stuff that I'm interested in. So.
No, but that's the beautiful thing, right? Is that you have this ability to, like, you want something, or you have an idea based on a tool that used to exist, and you're like, oh, you know what? Why don't I just do that on Noster? Like, wow, and you just can, and nobody can stop you, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm actually curious to dig into Highlighter a little bit more, because so you've got the again, like the article publishing, you've got the ability, like you can upload a link for anyone that doesn't know. So go to highlighter.com if you're listening to this, and you can like drop in a link. You can basically turn that into a Noster, a note on Noster, right? But you also have coming up here, you've already got the ability to upload video there. You've got the coming soon under live stream and podcast. So, going forward, anything that's published through Highlighter is going to, depending on the kind, right, is going to display on whatever clients support that, right? It's in addition to being a kind of a repository, it's also a publishing tool, and of course a discovery tool as well for people who just want to go there and follow their creators. Is that a fair kind of overview in that way?
It is. To me, the most important part was that I don't want, because I'm seeing this more and more lately. It's something that I think we need to call out when we see it. And I'm always unsure whether to name names. But there are a few Noster clients that they pretend to be a Noster, but you can't create a client. Like you're writing to a database that they own, and you are locking yourself into the database, right? It's just a silo. It's just another silo. It just happens to look like it's a Nostra client, right? And yeah, again, I don't want to name any names, but they're very popular ones. And I think it's a problem because the idea, like, I think where Nostra shines, Nostra is not better. Like Substream might be better than Twitch, but Primal, with all the work that Million has done and all the work that the Primal team has done, Primal is not better than Twitter. It cannot be better than Twitter because Twitter has network effects. So what's the best client? What's the best network? It's the network that has the people that you want to interact with, right? So Twitter is 1,000,000 times better than Primal. Twitter is 1,000,000 times better than Deimos and Snort and any client. YouTube is better than Flare. YouTube, Patreon is better than Highlighter. Substack is better than Highlighter. So I don't think any of these clients will end up being, from a more broader perspective, one-to-one can beat the incumbents, right? That's why they're incumbents. How many companies have tried to dethrone Facebook? How many companies have tried to dethrone Reddit? Hundreds and hundreds and thousands of completely failed experiments. So I don't think going head-to-head with Reddit or Twitter or whatever is the way to go. I think where we shine, the stuff that we have that they don't, is the interoperability. So to me, the stuff that I work on and the stuff that I get excited and the stuff that I will like promote, if you will, is the stuff that retains the interoperable elements. So while building Highlighter, instead of just saying, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to put everything on my database and all these suckers can, like, I'm going to capture all this audience and they're going to be Highlighter creators. No, I want to build this in a way where they are Nostr creators, it's Nostr content, and Highlighter is a client that leverages this network. Highlighter is one more client. So as I was working on everything I built, from the NIPs to how data is done, everything, I was thinking Amethyst, which is the main Android client, Amethyst doesn't have a backend. It doesn't have a server. It doesn't have a bunch of things that are required to make something like this work. I want users from Amethyst to be able to subscribe, to interact, to publish their content, to do all the things that a creator or a subscriber to creator can do from Amethyst. And I also don't want Highlighter to be the only place where creators can create their stuff on Nostr. I don't want to recreate one more fucking silo on top of Nostr. So I'm very... Highlighter is one more client right now because I wrote all these NIPs, I wrote all these specs publicly, of course. Like there is already for one, like the main NIP, there's already one more client. It's just for something else, but there is already one more client doing subscription payments. Highlighter is just one more client. So to me, that was fundamental because Highlighter by itself is not going to dethrone Patreon. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, I forgot why I started ranting about this. It's just, yeah.
No. I like it because I think that's a really important point, is that each of these clients, each of these implementations by themselves is not where, like, even though they may be really nice and really clean and improving all the time, to take, Primal as the example you gave, by themselves, they're not going to dethrone the incumbents. But that's not where Noster's strength is. Noster's strength is in the fact that you can use and choose from dozens of different clients, dozens of different experiences. You can use them all interchangeably on a daily basis, as you clearly just called out before. And that's where the power is, because it's like a choose your own adventure for people. Because, on the current siloed platforms, like what you do on YouTube is different from what you do on Twitter, is different from what you do on Instagram, is different from what you do on Facebook, et cetera, right? On Nostr, you can still have that different clients for different purposes. But the difference being that your audience is still your audience across all of them. You're not siloing the people that you're trying to reach and having to have a different strategy for how you build up your following in each one of these silos. You just do what you do, and however you want to interact with Nostr, what you are creating gets out in front of the people who follow you, who want to see it, and who you want to be seen by. And that's the power. The power is not in, one individual client becoming a super app, because it's still not going to be, as good as something like Twitter. It's just not entirely possible.
It's just impossible.
But all of these put together, and this is that idea of micro apps, right? That Fiat Jaf has talked about, that you have talked about a lot. Many people have talked about a lot, but I didn't, when I was first getting on Nostra, I didn't quite get what was meant by that. I now very much do, I think, and it's just this that we're talking about. It's that you don't need to build the everything app and have that be the way that this new protocol wins. In fact, that's probably counterproductive to Nostr winning. What you need is just optionality. You need optionality. So if you're listening to this and you are not on Nostr yet, I'll link a bunch of different clients that you can try out. And the key thing to remember is that once you create your account and keep your private key safe, please, you can use any of these interchangeably. And your followers will still be your followers. You'll see all of the things you've posted across all of them. And you don't need to worry about, okay, I've posted this on Twitter. Now I need to go, create a banner image and post this on YouTube and add a bunch of timestamps. And now I need to go make an image of this and put this on Instagram. No. You just create a note and send it, and it goes everywhere, and it's seen by everyone who follows you. And that is like a crazy concept. And back to your earlier point about like there's no true global. Nostr seems to be about as close as you can get, though. It still may not be a true global, and depending on what relays you are, but it's at least close, because the silos are of a different nature. And you also, again, you can't get kicked out of those silos, and you can't be blacklisted by. China tried, right? But people are still using Nostr in China. Like, they may have kicked Damus out, but people are still using Nostr over there. So unless they want to, really shut down internet access over there, people are going to keep using it, and that's a beautiful thing. It's a powerful thing. Yeah,
to me, the way I've been thinking about it lately is that I think with Noster, what's happening and what will end up happening is that we'll end up with a localized internet. It's like, when we start as a species, when we started exploring with the idea that I can communicate with people in China instantly, it's in complexity from computer science terms is O1, is the same distance from us talking as if I'm sending a message to my wife in the hallway, or to someone in China. It's the same distance, right? And we explore, like we felt this globalized, instant communication with absolutely everybody. And I think what's happening now is that we end up fragmenting in communities, which are like, it's like a local community. It's the people, like you and me are friends. We've probably seen each other in real life like 3 or 4 times in different points in the world. But whenever there's a Bitcoin conference, we ended up coalescing, we ended up hanging out, and it's like, oh fuck, Walker, how are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And in the same way, it's like it extends your humanity. It extends your social layer to the people that you're around in a very organic way. I think Nostra is going to help a lot with that. And part with regards to the micro apps thing that you were mentioning before is that when you have a super app that has billions and billions of users, like Twitter or Facebook, the app has to work for everybody, like in the same way. Like the same experience must work across all boundaries, across all cultures, right? So on one side, you like these companies when they are working on their products, they must find whatever works for most people. So you end up with a pretty mediocre product. That's why the internet kind of looks the same. No matter what you're using, it's kind of everything looks the same, feels the same. You open any app, you immediately know how to use it because it's the same as the other app you were using before. It's just accessing a different database, but it's kind of the same thing. And it flattens the culture a little bit, right? Like everybody, because we interact with these fucking products all day. It's like everybody in the world is interacting with the same fucking products all day. We see the same fucking buttons and we know how to everything is the same. So I think when you go to an app that doesn't need to capture every single use case under the sun, it can just be like this very specific niche client that maybe appeals total addressable market of 1,000 people, it can go really wild and it can go very long tail and be very strange, but maybe 1,000 people will absolutely love that experience. But it's not, the network itself doesn't need to be constrained to 1,000 people. The network itself is Noster. They can still interact with the broad Noster ecosystem, but from a different perspective, from a different point of view. And it's really hard to convey how much these different experiences, the look and the feel and the UX of a product changes your behavior. But I see it all the time because I use so many different clients. I notice that I act different when I'm using client A or client B or client C. It's the same content, but I act different. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy, man. And to me, that's what excites me so much. Is like this broadening of the human experience, because we will end up with really different products, and we can still have very tight experiences when using these different products, when moving from one experience to a different experience, because Nostr allows that. So yeah, like you were saying earlier, that you're hopeful. I am so incredibly hopeful. I think we got it. Like, I think there's a fuckload of work to be done, but I think we got it. I think we have the right energy. We have the right builders. I'm very, 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 very hopeful of where we're going, what we're doing, and I think the implications are really hard to grasp. Like, I am very bullshit, very bullshit on the very bullish on where we're going. And the downstream effects, the secondary and third order effects of the stuff we're working on. But I don't think I even in my wildest dreams, it's going to exceed that.
Well, I am very bullshit on it as well. And that's a wonderful note to wrap up on here. Note, no pun intended. I'll link to your npub and to highlighter.com. Is any other sites you want to send people to that I should throw in the show notes?
No, my npub is all you need. That's the cool part, that there doesn't need to be any hard coding anymore to anything. There's been a lot of attempts at having a namespace, and I always say that namespace are always belief systems. The only namespace is math, and npub is a representation of math. It doesn't need to be queried in any way. It's just a fucking long number, and like, because if you have usernames or stuff like that, that is within one system, right? Even within the fiat system or DNS or whatever, it's a name within a system. So my npub is all you need. Yeah, anyone that wants to find me can find me with my npub.
Beautiful. Well, and a lovely note to end on. I want to thank you, Pablo, because like your time, Bitcoin is scarce, but Bitcoin podcasts are abundant. So thank you for sharing your scarce time on this one. This was an illuminating chat. Really enjoyed it, and it was great to see you again. Looking forward to doing it in person again, hopefully soon.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm very excited. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate you a lot, Walker. So I'm very happy we got to do this.
And the feeling is very mutual, my friend. And that's a wrap on this Bitcoin Talk episode of the Bitcoin Podcast. If you are a Bitcoin-only company interested in sponsoring another fucking Bitcoin podcast, head to bitcoinpodcast.net or hit me up on social media. On Noster, head to primal.net/Walker. And on Twitter, search for @WalkerAmerica or @TitcoinPodcast. You can also watch the video version of this show on X or on YouTube by going to youtube.com/@WalkerAmerica or Rumble by searching for @WalkerAmerica. Bitcoin is scarce. There will only ever be 21 million. But Bitcoin podcasts are abundant. So thank you for spending your scarce time to listen to another fucking Bitcoin podcast. Until next time, stay free.